Hello guys, welcome back, and today I'm going to be talking about a huge deal that sends Mikael Granlund for Kevin Fiala. Now, Mikael Granlund has been traded in a huge one-for-one trade for Kevin Fiala, so what are the trade details and which team won this trade, Minnesota or Nashville? Watch till the end to find out. Now, two division rivals, Nashville and Minnesota, hooked up for a last-minute trade at the trade deadline that sent two fantastic players going each way, and you normally don't see Central Division of opponents trading great players between the two, but with a few minutes left of the trade deadline, we did get that huge surprise. Now, the trade details of this trade are pretty simple because it's a one-for-one trade. Mikael Granlund for Kevin Fiala. I'm as confused as you are. We literally have zero details to this trade because there are no details to announce because this trade is as simple as you get. One-for-one trade, player for player, and let's just say one might be better than the other. Now, of course, Granlund for Kevin Fiala, it's not really a balanced one-for-one here. When it comes to Mikael Granlund's stats so far this season, he's played 63 games, putting up 15 goals, 34 assists for 49 points. Very solid stat sheet, a little bit less than last year. Last year, he had a pretty solid offensive output. This season has been a little bit rough for the Minnesota Wild as a whole, so it kind of is expected. When it comes to Kevin Fiala's stats, they're just a little bit worse there, playing 64 games, having 10 goals, 22 assists for a solid 32 points, but it doesn't really compare to 49, and I just don't get it whatsoever. Now, there were rumors about Mikael Granlund being traded earlier today and even in the last couple of weeks. It's not a terrible surprise that Mikael Granlund was traded. It's kind of stupid, but it wasn't really a terrible surprise. But trading him for Kevin Fiala, again, I just don't really get it whatsoever, and Nashville just came out as robbers in this trade because while Kevin Fiala is younger than Granlund for sure by about 4 years, there is no comparison. Even though both players might be closer than you think, Granlund is still the much better player. And I'm personally a big fan of both players, a big fan of Granlund for what he was able to accomplish in Minnesota to become such a great first-line player, especially 2 years ago. Same thing goes for Kevin Fiala, one of my favorite players on Nashville, or I guess now Minnesota. He was one of my favorite players, super skilled, super speedy type guy, and of course being a Swiss guy, I always have to root for those kind of kids, and he's done well with Nashville, and will probably do a lot better in Minnesota as well. And while I like both players, I do like Kevin Fiala, don't get me wrong, but he is simply not enough to get in return for Mikael Granlund. I mean, when it comes to the age comparison, yeah, sure, Granlund is older and Minnesota is going for that retool, but it's not like Granlund is this super old grandpa or anything. He's like 26. I mean, he still has a lot of hockey to bring for the Minnesota Wild, and I just don't understand why they traded him now rather than later, I guess. But Kevin Fiala will be a young, solid player for them. I don't think he's going to be as good as Mikael Granlund though, and I just don't see the upside in Fiala that Granlund brings. And what makes this trade even more baffling is that they traded Mikael Granlund, but not Eric Staal, who literally made the most sense in the world to trade for the Minnesota Wild. I thought 100% Eric Staal was going to get traded, maybe Boston, maybe some team in need of center depth, but Minnesota keeps him at age 35. With, I think, a year left. And it boggles my mind what Minnesota is doing here because they had a pretty decent trade with the Coyle and Donato trade. It's working out for them so far. But this trade just makes zero sense. And the trade they didn't make also makes zero sense. And it's weird to say that this might be a desperation move by Minnesota, but it's not like they had any pressure to trade Mikael Granlund. I'm sure Granlund would have been happy to stay in Minnesota. I thought he would be a perfect Wild player for the future and in their current retool. It's not like Granlund is going to be a complete UFA, is going to be gone, just like, I don't know, a Wayne Simmons or something. But Minnesota didn't have any pressure to trade a guy like Mikael Granlund. They didn't have any pressure to do that sort of thing, and they go out and get Kevin Fiala, which granted he's a very solid player, but again, just not enough in return for a guy like Granlund. But for the Nashville Predators, they are going amazing with this trade. The Wayne Simmons one, I think they also won. Mentioned that in the video earlier. But with Mikael Granlund now, Nashville is looking amazing. Adding Mikael Granlund to that winger group just makes it even more lethal. Him being the first line winger on that team is just crazy. But adding Mikael Granlund to the Nashville team is something that I certainly never expected. But I'm glad to see it happen because it is going to be monstrous in the playoffs. But again, seeing Mikael Granlund in a different jersey, especially a Preds jersey, is just going to look really weird after seeing him in that Minnesota Wild gear for so long. It's just going to seem so wacky the first time because this is a trade that I never really expected to happen. I never really expected Mikael Granlund to get traded, and if I did, I certainly did not expect the Nashville Predators to actually go for it and actually trade for him. Now, when it comes to which team wins this trade between Nashville and Minnesota, I think you guys might already know by how I've perceived myself in this video, but I'm going to say the Nashville Predators win this one by a pretty healthy margin, and I'm not really alone in that. And while I do like Kevin Fiala a ton, I think he'll be a future first-line winger for the Minnesota Wild, I just feel like giving a guy up like Mikael freaking Granlund, who has been their best player, I would say, or at least one of their best players in the last few years. And again, giving him up at only age 28-6 just seems baffling to me for a team that needs direction. Granlund could have given it to him, but Nashville is definitely reaping the rewards. But again, it's just a trade that I have no understanding towards. I don't know why Paul Fenton made this trade, but it's one that David Poile is looking like a genius already. Well, of course, time will have to tell how this trade works out. If Granlund works with Nashville, if he doesn't, if Kevin Fiala works great in Minnesota, or if he doesn't. But this trade right now looks like a handsome steal for the Nashville Predators, and that is pretty obvious. But of course, with this video, I want to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments down below. So let me know, what do you think about this trade? What do you think about Mikael Granlund getting exchanged 1-for-1 for Kevin Fiala? And of course, the big question, which team do you think won this trade? The Nashville Predators, which is likely, or the Minnesota Wild? But if you guys want some more Grav videos just like this one, you can click on this card right here to watch my video about Wayne Simmonds and him getting traded to the Nashville Predators. But that is going for today, guys. If you guys enjoy, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Again, comment down below your thoughts on this trade and which team won. And I'll see you guys in the next video or stream. Goodbye.